And how you doing?
Doing swell.
Great show. That was awesome.
Ron brought everyone together in song. Steph did an amazing set. I was so glad to be able to finally see. Yeah, of course, you and Jimmy just rocked the whole house, blew the roof off the place.
Yeah, it's a truly unique thing, a live Jimmy Dore show. It is really a fun as a performer. I've done a million shows and I've had great crowds and all that stuff, but there's something special about those shows because it's just like a room full of progressives fired up, and it's all this political activism and comedy and everything. So it's really cool. And then also too, just from doing my show and everything, I get to meet you and others out there on the road in person. So I really dig it myself.
Yeah, you guys did great. Harlow's is a great venue too. I'd seen Sam Tripoli there a little while ago, so I'm excited to hear that you and Ron might be going there for the Progressive Comedy Tour.
Yeah, I mean, Sam was the one actually that hooked Jimmy up with that venue, and then when we were there for 2 nights, Ron and I were talking to the owners about we're working on dates right now, so we'll probably have a Progressive Comedy Tour there probably in July or maybe August, September, somewhere in there. But we're working on it. We'll make that happen.
Nice.
So I know you wanted to talk about the coronavirus. I was actually just watching news on it today, and you know we'll, we'll get into it. And part of it is not necessarily, or the thing you wanted to discuss, and I think it's a good topic to discuss, which is it's not necessarily the virus itself, it's how those in power handle it. So why don't you tell us, what your thoughts and what you're seeing thus far, and what we should be looking for.
Yeah, so just right off the bat, more people die of the polluted air pollution in China every year than have died from the coronavirus. I mean, more people. Jimmy was just on RT talking about this, how more people die of the regular flu than the coronavirus. So the fear mongering in the mainstream media is not surprising. We see this time and time again. Every time there's a new virus, which they do keep coming in more frequently, and they are a little bit more threatening each time. But they use this as an opportunity to fearmonger us into handing over more of our rights and giving more of our power away to them who set us up for this situation to begin with. I think it's important to note that, there's a few different things that the elite have done to organize a societal structure that provides the environment that's conducive for the spread of this type of virus, some of which are the industrialization of mostly Western countries, but first world countries altogether. This over sterilization, kind of mechanical way of approaching society that's not really in symbiosis with nature itself. That's going to promote more bacteria and plagues and all this sorts of stuff. And then, of course, there's the animal agriculture industry. 80% of our antibiotics from Big Pharma go to the animals in the animal agriculture industry.
Just 80%?
80%, yeah, of all antibiotics go to just the animal agriculture industry alone. So,
wow,
a lot of money to be made there for Big Pharma in keeping this industry afloat. But there's also the pesticides. We have to use about half of the world's landmass, half of the earth, just to grow crops to feed to the animals in the animal agriculture industry. A cow eats 6 to 12 times what a human would eat. So that means that's all that much more pesticides being dumped on acres and acres of land. 91% of the deforestation of the Amazon is solely due to animal agriculture alone. And all of that's being replaced with livestock farming and largely crops that we're dumping Monsanto pesticides in. This, again, creates an environment that's just conducive for the spread of growth of a new plague. We're forcing, with these antibiotics and these pesticides, we're forcing bugs, super bugs, to evolve even quicker and faster into something more threatening, way quicker than they would have done in the natural environment. And we're just not prepared for it. Even with our advanced technology in these highly scientific modern times, you'd think we'd be able to keep up with that. But because we keep ourselves pushing these viruses to become even more highly evolved, we're setting ourselves up for disaster. And then the last kind of point in this society that's set up for the spread of a coronavirus, we have the vaccine and the bioweapons programs. We have labs all around the world funded by Big Pharma and DARPA that are pouring millions of dollars into research and creating these viruses so that they can test them against vaccines. And there's this arms race of who can make the biggest, strongest, baddest vaccine to take on the hypothetical virus that might kill everyone. So they create these viruses to test against vaccines to see which vaccines are the best and the strongest. And same thing with bioweapons. It's constant trial and testing, reinventing new chemicals and viruses so that way we can create a bioweapon and a way to control it. So those are kind of the ways: industrialization, animal agriculture, and the vaccine bioweapons programs. These are the ways that the elite have set us up for disaster. And of course, their solution to something like the coronavirus is, let's bust out a vaccine really quick that hasn't been tested,
Right.
and just go ahead and make it mandated for everyone. And that's concerning. That's what people should really be concerned about.
Well, there's so many aspects to this here, because it's like, first of all, the corporate media just overhypes it. And so everyone's flipping out, and it's like, and like you say, like Jimmy said, I mean, I've said this before. I mean, regular old influenza, the flu, kills 20 to 30,000 people a year just in the United States, every year. And so the other part of this, and it is true, scientists and doctors have been saying for 20 to 30 years, a pandemic's coming. It's not a matter of if, it's a question of when. And part of that is what you're talking about. They've created this environment where these super bugs can just accelerate at crazy rates. So it's like a combination of, they're creating this problem, as is the case. And then when there is one, whether it's a legitimate threat or not, they use it as a hype. I mean, I did a video a week or two ago saying, I bet you the coronavirus gets really bad right around Super Tuesday to keep people home. So it's like, and I don't want to go say, oh, this coronavirus is nothing to be concerned with, but they're absolutely using it, And when I watch the mainstream media, and they just hear the doctors just say, oh, do what you should do with any cold or flu. Wash your hands, don't cough in your hand, cough into your elbow, But like, what's concerning to me is all of the massive industries that you just named off, big agri, big pharma, and the corporate media, just pushing this thing because they create these viruses, and then again want us all to just go get some vaccination, and we don't know if it's been tested or if it's good or whatever. And it just seems like they facilitated this problem, and then they're going to profit from the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is a difficult topic to discuss because in our culture, we've been conditioned. We're told by the CDC, we're told by the World Health Organization, vaccines are always safe and effective 100% of the time, which is just ridiculous. There's no evidence to support that claim, but they want you to feel comfortable and confident with injecting yourself with these things that we already know are very toxic. And so Big Pharma has worked really hard. They've paid off Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, to suppress any discussions about vaccine safety. If you even question at all the efficacy and the safety of these vaccines, you're immediately suppressed and shadow banned. In fact, Instagram just recently banned the hashtag vaccine safety. I think it was either that or vaccine health. They banned it completely. So you couldn't even talk about it. And that's a huge issue. And a lot of people will get really triggered because of this tribalism and this divisiveness that we're conditioned into taking part in. A lot of people will get triggered and say, oh, you're anti-vax. You must be anti-vax.
Right.
It's not black and white. And most of the people that are talking about vaccine safety and efficacy, they're not anti-vax. They're people who have witnessed firsthand or in the data someone getting harmed by a vaccine, and they want to just discuss it. They want to raise some questions. And very much like with gun control, we're asking for some common sense regulations here. We're not talking about banning everyone's guns instantly like that. That's just not really a practical way to go about doing things. But it's the same with vaccines. People aren't anti-vax. They just want to have more regulations. Commonsensical regulations in place. I mean, the Big Pharma, we had Adam Schiff recently ask Amazon to pull all books and documentaries that question vaccine safety. And they did. Amazon removed everything. So these are books and documentaries written and published by scientists and doctors and victims of the vaccine program. So that's concerning how unregulated Big Pharma goes.
And what it does is it just fosters this crazy extremism. I don't agree with the anti-vaxxers That's an extreme solution too. That's too we're never allowed to ask any questions. That's an extreme solution. And getting rid of all vaccines, it doesn't make sense to me, because we've cured a bunch of diseases with vaccines like polio and mumps and measles and all that stuff.
Yep.
But it totally stands to reason that we should, and I've said to the anti-vaxxers who are like, Graham, no vaccines. I'm like, no, hold on. That's like saying we should get rid of public schools because we have mass shootings. But then the pharmaceutical companies just shouts down any questioning. We should actually have more research and more regulation, because we know from any medication, anytime you go to the doctor, they say, are you allergic to any medications? That's one of the first things they ask you. So of course we should find out, does this medication, and if we did more research, maybe there's like a blood test you do with a small child and you find out, oh, this kid falls in the 1 in 8 kids that is allergic to this thing or whatever. But again, and most scientists and doctors would tell you, we need more research, we need more data. So it's like, to just ban vaccines is insane, but to just like put them out there half tested is just as insane as well.
Yeah, a lot of these vaccine safety studies are done by the manufacturers themselves, of course. Big shocker, right? So we actually just recently had some footage. Someone had recorded a global summit with the World Health Organization where their officials were saying, you know what, we're looking at the totality of the data and we're finding out with our own internal numbers that vaccines aren't as safe as we thought they were. And we've been telling people, when just a few days, I think it was 5 days before that Global Health Summit, the World Health Organization, the same officials that were caught on screen talking about the dangers of vaccines, they put out this ad where they're saying, if you think vaccines are dangerous, that's a little bit naive. Like you're probably just listening to a conspiracy theory, and they're totally demonizing using critical thinking. And when you look at the things that are in these vaccines as well, I mean, we're talking about mercury.
Right.
Of course, no one is supposed to get mercury injected in their body. Of course, it's not,
right.
100% safe and effective all the time, if that's what we're doing. Formaldehyde is in there, glyphosate, cancer-causing glyphosate. They add some GMOs in there. There's animal proteins. There's human fetal cells. So we got ground up animals and ground up baby parts in there, all sorts, just a toxic cocktail of all sorts of really, really grotesque stuff. And what do you know? Things like that. And aluminum is in there as well. Things like this, we know, are not good to be injected into your veins, especially with an infant, someone who's really vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, we have now in California, the first really draconian vaccine mandate was passed in the entire world. It's the most draconian statistically on the entire planet. And it was in California, where we're supposed to be progressive. We're supposed to be fighting for justice here and truth in our society. That's not the case. Gavin Newsom passed this law that says now your kids can no longer opt out of the vaccines if they want to go to school. If you want your kids to go to school, you can't even opt out. Even if the doctor says, hey, this kid has an allergy, they're going to die if they get the vaccine or have a permanent disability. Doesn't matter. California says, you want an education? Well, you got to get the injection. So that's a problem.
Well, that's typical. I mean, America just loves going to either dumb extreme. It's just, it's mind-boggling to me. It's like we've had outbreaks because people didn't want to vaccinate their kids. When then, okay, that's not a problem. That's not going to work. People just say, oh, no vaccines. And then, of course, with the measles and the mumps, we have outbreaks, right? So then the state of California overreacts in typical fashion. The government always overreacts with this never again. Like, no, make a smart law. Make a law that actually takes a lot of things into consideration, like you're talking about. If a doctor says this kid is allergic to this medication, this vaccine, then the kid shouldn't take it. Like, there has to be, and the state of California could be pushing for more testing, more data, more regulation, more all of that stuff, more outside independent testing, not within, as you said, not within the pharmaceutical company, but I would wager Gavin Newsom has gotten money from the pharmaceutical companies. I would wager that he has, and that's why it's just got to be. We don't have a real democracy. We've got a kleptocracy run by oligarchs, so they can buy up stuff. There's no civilian oversight, and they own the politicians. So then we have to just go in one dumb extreme or the other. Vaccinate everybody, which is causing problems with some people, and then don't vaccinate anybody, which is equally problematic for the society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And when we have Harvard studies and the World Health Organization behind closed doors telling us, yeah, it looks like statistically these vaccines may be doing more harm than good. Of course, there's thousands of people who they could be helping, but if that's compared to tens of thousands of people every year or millions that are getting adversely affected or permanent, disabilities from these vaccines, then we really have to question the program itself. And I mean, despite their own internal numbers showing that these vaccines aren't necessarily helping the problems that they're supposed to be addressing, they've still ramped up the vaccines. We're getting 5 times the amount of vaccines, that we're getting hundreds times more chemicals than we did just 30 years ago. And there's a recent article in the Journal of American Medicine, JAMA, popular, reliable, peer-reviewed source, telling us that there's a correlation between the number of vaccines you receive and the increased risk in developing an illness or disability. Back about 30 years ago, we were getting around 12 vaccines and we had about a 12% chance of developing a disability. Now we're getting around, let me look at the graph here. It's 54 vaccines and we have a 54% chance of getting disabilities. So 30 years later, we're getting so many more vaccines that we have that many more. It's strange how close the percentage is. 12 vaccines and you had a 12% chance, 54 vaccines, now you have a 54% chance. There's clearly no relationship indicating that these are doing more good than they are harm. So it's a bit of a problem.
Of course, and when the pharmaceutical industry has so much money and so much power, they can do that. They can do that. And then anybody, I wouldn't be surprised if the pharmaceutical company actually pays some people to be big anti-vaxxers and say crazy stuff. So then anybody that asks a legitimate question, oh, you're a wingnut, anti-vaxxer, flat earther, just thrown into that conspiracy category.
Right.
Because that's what they do with all of us. I just want to ask a question about, it just seems like Seth Rich, like it just seemed kind of weird how he died. Oh, Russia, Seth Rich, conspiracy theorist, you're not allowed to ask any question now and without just being thrown into the flat earth lizard people category. And it is, when you look at the statistics you said that were in JAMA, like that's pretty, that's not some, Alex Jones document. That's peer reviewed, as you said.
Yeah, and I mean, they're able to keep this a secret pretty easily. They had in 1986, they made a whole new court for vaccine cases. So when someone came and reported harm done by a vaccine, there's a whole separate chunk of money set aside for taxpayer dollars to go toward paying off the harm done by pharmaceutical companies. So taxpayers are footing the bill for these pharmacies. It looks like about $4 billion has been paid out just in the past 30 years or so. $4 billion paid out to people who proved that they had harm done by vaccines. And that's our taxpayer money going to that.
Well, these pharmaceutical companies are little mom and pop businesses. They don't have, it's not like they're making trillions of dollars. Yeah, oh God, I really appreciate you bringing this stuff up because it really goes into the details of this issue. And in the details and in the research and in the numbers is where you find the truth, right? That's where the truth is. The truth is the pharmaceutical industry covering it up, just like big tobacco has done, just like the fossil fuel industry has done their own internal studies dating back to the 70s saying fossil fuels are killing the planet. They hide it. And then our tax money, they get tax breaks where our tax monies are used for this. And then not only that, clearly the tip of the spear is all the ad time they buy on the mainstream media. And they're not, I mean, why am I having to hear about all of these, oh, get Leprexa for your fill in whatever the thing is. And it's not necessarily, I mean, yes, they're trying to get me to say that the next time I'm at my doctor's office, hey, maybe I need this medication. But the main thing they're paying for consent. They're paying for the corporate media to go along. They're paying for the corporate media to not do a story. There's no way any of the information you talked about is going to get mass coverage by the corporate media because they're going to cut to a commercial for a big pharmaceutical company. We've seen this during the debates. everyone attacks Bernie's Medicare for All plan, and then we cut to a commercial, and there's, there's a Pfizer commercial, there's a Merck Pharmaceutical commercial, there's a, isn't insurance so wonderful for you in commercial? And so they're buying favorable coverage.
Yep. It's that easy. It's that easy. Now we have things like the Healthy People 2020 initiative. I don't know if you've heard of this, but about 10 years ago, the government started a program called Healthy People 2020, and it's all geared toward making sure as many people on the planet are as healthy as the government can make them. So their goal is to mandate vaccines in 2020 for all people, all adults, all children of all ages. They want to get everyone caught up. I mean, we're looking at like elderly people catching up on 60 plus vaccines that they haven't had over the years. This is really dangerous. And the government's proposing this under the guise of it's for your best interests. It's going to keep you safe and healthy. We're concerned for you being so sick in this, sick society that we got the solution. We got a great Band-Aid solution. You're going to love it. Mandated vaccines for everyone.
Oh man, this is so, it's surprising, but it isn't surprising because every corporation just does this awful, evil, sinister thing. They put the defense industry puts it under the guise of justice and freedom because they profit from blowing and killing people up. They profit from that. Like the oil company is like, oh, we got to keep America running. It's business, it's commerce, it's good for business, it's good for jobs when they're killing the planet. So I just don't, they have to be sociopaths, but they also have to be so, I don't know what the clinical term is. I don't know if it's just flat out dumb. Like they're ruining the planet that they need to live on as well. Like I just want to say, like, if you're creating health risks and there's contaminated water and all this other stuff, do you think you can survive that? Like you think, like I don't get it. I don't.
It is mind-boggling. I mean, I think we talked about this a little bit last time when we were talking about 5G. There was a great NASA ad that came out recently. You have to watch it. It's so insightful because they glorify the idea that the wealthiest elite in our society are leaving to colonize by 2030, I think it was. They're going to start colonizing the moon and beyond. They're going to start at the moon as a base, and they're going to go on to Mars, and then they're going to explore the whole galaxy and rape and pillage everything for natural resources for the elite. Aren't we the masses happy and excited about NASA's accomplishments? It's really weird, kind of Orwellian NASA ad. You realize that they are just representing this group of elite imperialists who have colonized this planet and are moving on to the next one. So the chances are that they know they've been destroying the planet and they're totally fine with it. They're totally okay. And they may be able to have the technology to repair the planet once they wipe off, or they start over with a clean slate. There's been enough devastation where they can rebuild and terraform the Earth to their own personal needs. We see the elite having access to this type of technology, to be able to clean the oceans instantly, but they suppress these patents. They don't allow them to be getting out into the commercial public because then that would kind of backfire. Then they wouldn't have the whole place to themselves. If they want to retain all their power over the slave race that is human society, then they have to, make sure that they keep us from understanding the truth and understanding how we actually have power over making our lives better.
Yeah, they are an insane bag of sociopaths. Like they really, I wouldn't be surprised if they've had meetings like, well, how can we wipe out a huge portion of the population so that we can profit? Not all of them, because we need them we need their slave labor, but can we just fly up to a space station or Mars and hang out while everything dies and then come back and build new condos or whatever their horrible plan is?
Yeah. And so, I mean, kind of the last thing I had in my notes here that I thought was interesting to bring up was the idea of national security, that this being questioning and discussing vaccine safety and efficacy being a national security threat. Because when you have a virus like this, viruses like the coronavirus that are going to keep coming time and time again, you're going to see them cracking down on our safety. They want everyone to be as secure as possible, but it's not so much about national security as it is about corporate security and securing the future of the elite. So yeah, that's just one last thing I really want people to be conscientious about when they're having these discussions. Keep your eyes out. The FBI and the CIA are already telling us that environmental activists and groups like this, they're threats. They're environmental terrorists. They're threats to national security, because what happens when you protest? Well, you slow down the economy. What happens when you boycott buying destructive products like animal agriculture products? All your vegans are now an environmental terrorist group, just for boycotting something that, is completely destructive.
Yep.
So I want people to kind of leave with that and keep that on the forefront.
Well, it's another thing, like I always say, when some big crazy thing's happening in the mainstream media, what are they distracting us from? What are they not? You know what we're talking about? Coronavirus. You know what we're not talking about? The 750 polling places that were closed in Texas, primarily in working class black and brown neighborhoods. Oh, weird. Yep. Biden wasn't predicted to win Texas, and he did. Isn't that a shocker? No one's screaming about election fraud because everyone's worried about they're going to get this crazy bat flu or whatever it is. So it's like, pay attention. There's whatever the thing is. Whenever Trump tweets something and everyone on the left gets all, can you believe what he said? I go, yeah. Do you know that the democratically controlled Congress just voted to give him fill in the blank? Oh, I didn't know that. I know you didn't know that. I know you didn't know that because that's by design. That's why you didn't know that. So, wash your hands, cough into your elbow, and pay attention of how the ruling class is screwing us over.
Yeah, and if you want to maximize your immune system, there's a scientifically proven way to do that. That's with the whole food, plant-based diet. But you never hear that in the mainstream media. It's widely understood. The American Dietetics Association, the largest institution that researches health, and the British Dietetics Association, they both have concluded that you can optimize your health with a plant-based diet, that you can be perfectly healthy as a vegan. So it's interesting that we've been shoved down our throats, literally, all of this information that we need to be consuming the dead flesh of animals or animal secretions in order to be a healthy, happy individual. That's not the case at all. Go figure. That's what they told us. The complete opposite is true. So
that's that's another thing. Eating all the animal products actually depletes your immune system. It's like, that's a whole nother conversation you and I could have, dude. Well, Jackson, thank you so much for supporting my show at patreon.com/Graham Elwood. You too can be on the show like Jackson is if you support what I do at Patreon. And let everybody know you have your own channel where people can watch your content online.
Yeah, so you can check me out at Jackson Facts on YouTube. I also have another channel called Action Jackson, which is just grassroots, boots on the ground activism, mainly with animal agriculture, but I'm looking at branching out into more political stuff. At Jackson Facts, we cover everything. It's just quick news updates. We cover conspiracy theories. We cover politics, science, nature, culture, entertainment. We even have news, viewer curated news. So you guys let me know what you want to hear, and I'll try to do my best to analyze and tease apart fact from fiction. So check it out.
Awesome, Jackson. Thank you so much for being on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, check out his channel and then support this show. I can't do my show. He can't do his show without your support. We don't get money from Merck Pharmaceuticals or Monsanto. So we need you to like, share, and subscribe. Share these videos out on your social media. Hit the subscribe button. Even if you've hit it before, they unsubscribe people all the time. Watch the ads all the way through. If you click skip ad, I don't get paid. And then, of course, go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. That is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. Join Ron Placona and I on the road. We're in Florida in March. We're in the Pacific Northwest in April. April 25th, we're going to be shooting our comedy special in Portland. Go to grahamelwood.com for all your tour dates. Jackson, thank you so much again. And everybody out there, you're making Gotham great again.